All right, everyone. For those of you who just entered, this is Theater 15, the best audience in B-Sides. And I want everyone to give a round of applause for Caitlin and Jeffrey. They'll be our speakers.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Life of a Bug, an insight on GitHub's Bug Bounty program. A brief agenda of what we're going to talk about today. So we will both introduce ourselves. Then Jeff is going to give a high-level overview of our bounty program. Then I will jump into a high-level overview of our PSIRT program. We will then introduce a mock bug, which we will walk you through the process of our two teams collaborating on the bug from triage through the whole IR process. Jeff will go over some tips and takeaways, and then we'll do any Q&A. So my name is Caitlin. I am a product security engineer with GitHub. I lead our PSIRT engineering team, which is a subset of PSIRT, where we dive into more data-driven metrics of our investigations, digging into variant analysis, trend tracking, really diving into the pain points of what we're seeing across PSIRT. My background is in corporate security, moved into product security and incident response when I came on board with GitHub about 2 years ago.
Sweet. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeff. Several years in vulnerability management / managing, triaging multiple bug bounty programs. I'm a senior prod sec engineer at GitHub. Tons of bug bounty stuff that we do there. Huge researcher engagement advocate. We'll go down some of what that looks like soon. And just passionate about all things security. Let's talk a little bit about a high level of our program and what bug bounty looks like at GitHub. We manage two programs, a public program that has a very extensive scope, which researchers love, and we love that they love that. A private program, 25 Hacktocats. This is something we've been operating for like 2 years, three years, and slowly we've been revamping it and offering more beta features and cool engagements for our researchers who really know our products well. And we have a dedicated GitHub staff. This is something that's kind of unique. We have a team that solely focuses on our program. I'm part of that team. Researcher community engagement, one of my favorite parts of working at GitHub. We recently launched a public bounty swag store. Might not seem like a lot, but we got a lot of feedback at DEF CON. We met up with some hackers and we're like, hey, we'd love to kind of rep your stuff, your swag, but more specifically bounty specific swag, and so we launched a store that's just for our researchers. Very funky, very cool, and we love it. We do a lot of blog posts where we highlight our researchers and we just kind of give them a microphone and let people know why they're hacking on our program, some of their favorite bugs that they found, etc. We offer exclusive perks, cool beta access, which everybody likes, right? Hunting on a new feature is always fun. And large rewards. We award up to 50K, which is, a good amount in the industry right now. We've been operating for about 9 years. We've awarded about 3.9 million so far in bounty rewards. And we've hit 1.5 million in 2022, which is great, right? We have top researchers testing that keep coming back. And I think that's a testament of our program. Tons of stuff around community engagement, like I said earlier, and that's why we focus heavily on it. And this program, the way we have it structured, really strengthens our customer engineering and IR partnership in its own unique ways. And we'll highlight what that looks like throughout the presentation. Here's our scope breakdown. Just a quick high level. Almost everything is in scope. Almost everything is eligible for rewards. Dependable code spaces, the types of products that everybody uses on daily. You can check out our scope in our own personal site on bounty.github.com/scope or our policy page on HackerOne. What's not eligible is basically just open source projects. We welcome contributions there, but most of them are out of scope. Known vulnerable software, we don't really pay for those. Upstream dependencies, we sometimes help coordinate that, but it's not something we can usually award for. And a few more things, and you can check that out on our ineligible site.
So PSIRT from a high level, we are responsible for the product security vulnerabilities that impact GitHub products and our customers. You may be familiar with more PSIRT. Our team is called Thor. On the other side, they are the corporate security side, but of course, we're doing product security within PSIRT. So we handle any security reports in 3 different ways. First, we will start with a lead. So when a security report comes in, we will always spin up a lead within PSIRT. And this is a very important part of the process where we can start generating those metrics that we will utilize throughout this whole process. And then once we have that lead validated, we will turn it into an investigation. If an investigation we deem is more severe or involves data that may need specific notification requirements, we'll turn that into an incident. So you may be wondering, where are these security reports coming from? Well, thankfully, we do have a very secure-minded internal group of hubbers who will often report security findings directly to us in a CERT Slack channel that everyone can access and is open to. But we also get a very large number of external reports, right? So a lot of them come through our bounty program, but we also do monitor blogs, Twitter. Security companies will write into us. We do get third-party reports occasionally, and of course our customers and users as well. So within PSIRT, we do receive a large number of reports. And one of the most important things about a program that is very process-driven and receives so much coming in at once is automation. So we are very, very big on automation within PSIRT at GitHub. And one of the things we utilize quite a bit are our chat ops. Everything is integrated with the GitHub platform and Slack so that we are essentially just triggering a bunch of chat ops and dogfooding our product, which is something we do a lot. And it's really good about taking out a lot of the third-party products, not needing them, and just utilizing our own tools. So we do this with leads. I'm going to walk you through how we do that once we do introduce the bug. And then how we go through that whole process with investigations. Another thing we do with automation is something called slash commands. This is something built into GitHub, and we use this for prioritization. Because we get so many reports in, we need to know what to work on first. So we use these slash commands, and I'll show you this as well. To determine this prioritization, we will slap a label on them for act, attend, track, and based on those labels, we'll determine what gets acted on first.
Cool. So let's review a bug from the beginning to the end of it. It'll give an insight on the bounty side of things and the PSIRT side of things and how they are intertwined. So in this case, we use HackerOne to receive these bugs. In this case, we got an IDOR on Mona Hub. And yeah, it's a fake bug. If the red didn't indicate it, it's definitely very fake that I created. And so this is what happens when the bug comes in. In this case, that's me, right? So I triage the bug, I reproduce it. I'm like, oh, this is valid. So we have automation ourselves to make this faster, right? And in this case, the report ID is that number there, and we'll run a command that says, hey, this is valid. Let's go ahead and triage this to the engineering team that owns this. And we'll throw it over to the repo. And this bot will safely throw everything over to the repo. And that's when the person who's triaging the report will say, hey, here's my reproduction steps on it. Here's where I think this is happening. I was able to maybe escalate this. And in this case, I triage it over. I added my summary, which I didn't show, but it's down below. And then I realized that it does impact GitHub Enterprise Server, which is GHES. You'll see that throughout the presentation. And it's about a medium plus. So in that case, we're going to have to loop in PSIRT.
So at this point, Bug Bounty is going to loop in PSIRT, and we will get our on-call person or whoever is available to get started on this lead. So we utilize this chat up that we have built in-house within Slack, and it will ask us to answer a few questions. You can see in the screenshot, we'll assign a PSIRT IC, add a title, add the summary, assign it to the team because our counterpart, Thor CSIRT, does this, uses this Slack chat op as well. And then, of course, we're plugging in the type. This is coming from Bounty so that we're getting these metrics going within the lead immediately. As you can see in this screenshot as well, it does put the lead directly in a GitHub repo. And this is where, once again, we're utilizing the GitHub product to start tracking a paper trail of our incidents so that we always have a reference back to these. So once we have this lead spun up and an issue created, we're going to go back to the initial reporter and we're going to acknowledge the fact that we got this lead and we've started the process of tracking it. And the next step will be to determine that prioritization and, of course, impact. So once again, we're going to go back to the automation and use these / commands. It's going to ask us a series of questions, and it's going to spit out an action. And based on that action, you can see here, it tells us to act. But not only do we want to rely on this automation, we also have to really think about what this bug is and think about the impact, because the impact to the GitHub customers and users and our product is really the most important thing. So we know what this bug is in IDOR, that the impact is an attacker could manipulate user data. Not good. So we know at this stage that we need to convert the lead. So once again, we're going to go back to our chat ups, and it's going to ask us a series of very well-known incident response questions like severity, sensitivity. So we're going to assign a TLP. And then it's going to ask us some more Slack-related questions. Do we want to make private Slack channels? And that's going to be based mostly on that TLP. So at this stage, we're converting this lead directly into an investigation. Our chat op is going to do this on the GitHub issue side as well. So it's fully documented in the issue. We don't have to go back into it, do anything manually. At this point, it's fully converted. And one of the things, as Jeff mentioned, is that we know that because this impacts GHES, GitHub Enterprise Server, we will need to issue a CVE. So that's another reason why we're going to convert this into an investigation, make sure that's fully documented, make sure the PSIRT IC is responsible for assigning that CVE, getting all those details in there, and getting it in the release notes for GHGS so that customers know the security impact of a patch. So at this stage, we are beginning the investigation. So we have the severity set, TLP, of course, our Slack channels, and our summary is getting developed. Everything is automated to this point, and now the PSIRT IC is going to come in, develop that summary, although I have a feeling we could start using Copilot for this a little bit, to generate that summary, and we'll take that summary, put it in the Slack channel, make sure it's pinned. We'll have next steps, assign engineers to those next steps so that anybody who comes into that Slack channel knows exactly what's going on, what's going to happen next, and we don't have to answer questions about any of that. So simultaneously, while this investigation is getting spun up, we're also working in the response phase. So this stage, we are dealing with the most important priority, and that is to stop the bleeding. So the good thing about working with our bug bounty partners is that they will often engage engineering before it ever even comes to PSIRT. They will get the engineers engaged on this bug. A mitigation will often get being worked on very, very quickly, sometimes before it even comes to PSIRT, which is awesome for us. We love to see that. If not, we will definitely jump on it and get engaged with the engineering team who owns the issue. We'll ask them for a root cause. They'll develop that mitigation. And then they will also develop those backports for GHGS, since we know that GHGS is impacted. While that's happening on the engineering side, the PSIRT IC will also be determining scope of impact. So they'll do that by reviewing logs, looking for evidence of exploitation. All of this is going into the Slack channel or issue for full documentation, for review, and determining our next phase, and that is a notification. So with every incident, we always ask this question, are notifications needed? We try to be as transparent as possible with GitHub. So notifications are a big part of the job we do. For this bug, we know specifically that a CVE is necessary. So PSIRT IC is going to issue that CVE, work with the GHGS team to get that in the release notes for the next patch, make sure that all parties are aware of this specific bug. But that's not the only notification that you may have seen from GitHub. So we also have github.blog, which is our blog post. We use a security tag for any security news that we have that goes out. We've had a a good number of blog posts trying to be as transparent as possible about the bugs that we found on our platform. And then we also utilize our changelog for bugs that may be smaller, but we want users to know that a change has been implemented in .com, especially if it may impact them. And then, of course, we also have direct emails. If we're able to scope for impact and have a list of users, then we will send out direct emails. This stage, Bug Bounty is going to work with the researcher.
All right. So at this point, we're backporting stuff, right? And we're getting ready to wrap stuff up from the PSIRT side. So Bounty is also starting to wrap things up by asking the researcher, hey, this qualifies for credit, CVE credit, which is awesome, right? And our site states that most bugs with GHES, there's like a specific language, but GHES will usually get CVEs, right, for a specific severity maybe. And so in this case, we asked the researcher, hey, not shown, but in the background, we're doing constant communication, right? And so we'll tell them, how would you like to be credited for this if you would like credit at all? And at the same time, we're also doing in the background, right, we're getting together and we're deciding what the payout should be, which is a very transparent, consistent process. The bounty person who had it from the beginning will pitch and suggest a payout based on our external and public severity payout guidelines. And in this case, we suggested 10K, and that's because this is, what it falls under based on our external site. And this is what we've paid out in the past for this type of IDOR. And then we also, talk about the impact and all that. So every week we have a payout call where the whole team will get together and review these, and all of us have to agree on it. And if we don't, then we go back to the drawing board and we decide, what's the fair amount if we missed the mark on the first round, which is cool. From my side, like when we go and pay out the reporter, researcher, they'll feel like it's fair. And, we usually don't get a lot of like back and forth on that. And it's because it lines up directly with our site. And yeah, for more information on our rewards, our bounty site is extremely up to date.
So now we're working into the post-investigation side of the house here. And that is going to be the PSIRT IC is going to take all this information, everything we've done throughout the investigation, and put that in a blameless postmortem. At GitHub, we're very big on promoting a blameless culture. It's all a learning experience for us, and it's very important that we maintain that. So in our postmortem, we're going to include, of course, a summary, timeline, RCA, lessons learned, after actions, because we don't want to hold up the investigation with after actions or any lessons learned that we want to carry forward across the org. So we're going to list those there, put them in PIRs, post-incident repair items, and then close out that post-mortem. This is something, I know I mentioned Copilot earlier, but this is something that we do use Copilot for. Sometimes it does help us, and any help we can get in getting these reports out faster, it's much better. So this is where my team comes in, PSIRT engineering. We're going to work through prevention. Prevention is a big thing, right? We want to reduce the number of incidents that we're seeing come in. So we do things like vulnerable review meetings where we review our postmortems and we share our findings with the greater org. We do variant analysis where we really dig into bugs and we try to find variants in different parts of the code base. We work with our code analysis team to develop detections and Sentinel and CodeQL queries. And then, of course, all these become post-incident repair items that we're tracking elsewhere.
Cool. So like I said earlier, the payout was suggested. At this point, we're going to award the payout. And this is one of the languages that we use when we pay out the reports. So we're wrapping stuff up. We're giving a coupon free of charge, GitHub Pro for life. And then in this case, because it got a CVE, this is something we've piloted maybe a little more than 6 months ago, where we started to try to share with the hacker community, besides, what we're up to, actual summaries of like the reports that we're getting. And I know there's a lot of work to be done there, right? Full disclosure is what everybody wants. And this is, one of the first steps there. And so in this case, we tell them, hey, there's a CVE that's being published. We would like to disclose a summary and, some of the report contents. And so we're excited to share with the hacker community if you're okay with that. And this is kind of like the process that you see when it happens. So let's talk about some tips and takeaways. By the way, there's a lot more we could cover, but 25 minutes is 25 minutes. So transparency and trust is something that hopefully was obvious throughout the process for both teams, and engaging with the researcher, with the engineering teams. And researcher engagement is hard, right? Because we want people to keep coming back. And everybody has their own story, their own reasons for bug hunting. And so we try to have a very consistent and transparent process when we work with researchers. And something that looks like is like having consistent communication. So we've partnered with like legal, PR to make sure that when we communicate with folks, it's consistent and the language is usually the same, with all of these. And along with that, customers and users are just as important. And so they hear things from us first, just like Caitlin kind of went through some of our notifications. And there's a lot of value in being transparent like that. And we've seen a lot of good things come from that. Another thing is maturing automation is important. That's very easy to say, right? But it is something that we put in practice. As you saw, Bounty has their own automation that makes things very easy, very quick. Triage things over, all the report content goes with it. That's awesome. It'd be very hard if it was all manual, right? Which happens when you first launch a program, I'm sure. But yeah, same thing with PSIRT. And so automating the easy stuff first is the way, right? And then you build off of that based on the pain points that you see and the time that you have to address those. And then lastly, Bounty and PSIRT teams for us, right, are extremely closely aligned. We're under the same director. And so what that causes is a very quick and seamless process for incident response. So when a bug comes in, we have these processes that make sure that we can go from receiving it to fixing it extremely quickly because the teams are so close and we have built these processes together. And it works amazing for us. And that's all we have for today. Again, 25 minutes is all we had, but there's a lot that we'd like to share more. If you have any questions, we still have about 4 minutes for questions. And you can follow us on Twitter and or see us in the lobby to chat further. Thank you.
Theater 15, round of applause, the best audience at B-Sides. Folks who have questions, please raise your hand. Slido is down, so we're going to do a microphone. If you guys want to project, say it with your chest, go for it.
Oh, I'm supposed to say?
I think we're good.
Sorry, you guys can pick.
You had your hand. Oh, for PSIRT.
The timeline? Yeah, you're asking? Yeah, it really depends on the severity of the bug and what we're seeing. Sometimes we actually very quickly, minutes of a receiving, triaging it, and working with the engineering team. Sometimes they do last longer. We do have, yeah. So yeah, we try to define this always internally, but I'll say our engineering team is faster, pretty slowly. But yeah.
Are we doing microphone or any other questions? Yeah.
Test.
So I really like that your scope is pretty wide. How was that decision made? Is this like a top-down thing saying we want to be super secure, or is bottoms-up saying let's find out? And how did you get the buy-in, I guess, from the product teams?
Yeah. That's a great question. It varies, right, based on like you said, right, leadership, and some leadership could get nervous, right, with like, hey, this feature, we don't really want to advertise that it's in scope or whatever, right? Like for us, it's because we have such a blameless process. It's everyone's excited to launch a product and then put it in scope to get additional testing because we have all these different testings in place, right? We have a bunch of teams that run their own scanning tools, their own testing and everything, but we see Bounty as like the 7th or the 8th, right? It's not the one we rely on, and it's not the one we get the most bugs with, but it's the nice to have, extra testing. And the ones that aren't in that public scope, they're most likely in our private scope, with our private bug bounty researchers. So we're getting eyes on these all the time, and we're seeing a lot of value in that. Our customers are loving the fact that we're okay with testing our stuff in great depth. Yeah. But it's hard to get buy-in if the culture doesn't follow that. So you have to set it, and then nurture it. It's easier said than done. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do you guys
Oh, I understood the question.
So Git is Shaw one, right? But there's a Git feature since I guess it came out like a year and a half ago within upstream Git that allows you to do Shaw two.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess how do you guys figure out when you're gonna implement newer features that are server side?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that might be a little out of scope for us to give you like a valid answer on, unfortunately. But if you're curious and if you write me on Twitter, I'm happy to track down the right person to ask that. That might be closer to like assessment or, you know, some of the teams that work closer with like when the products are launching like that or where they're at with launching those. But yeah, I can't really help you with that.
Fantastic questions, folks. Again, Theater 15, applause for our friends, Caitlin and Jeff.